Hello everybody. This time I'm just going to get right into it because I have a lot of material to cover. This one is going to just YouTube. First, I would thank YouTube. Thank for all of my listeners or everyone who has responded to my YouTubes. And the reason and everything for this is already said in my YouTube, so I want to get to it so that this one won't be that long. But this video right here is to clear up some things so that you can understand where I'm coming from and how the Jehovah Witness or governing body gets too much into the personal lives of their followers, I must say, their cult followers. And also the connection that it has when you're born into it. I have one younger brother, which is my full brother, and he was born into it. However, I can't remember when my mother started studying, so it must have been at a very younger age. And all of those things are put into the earlier YouTubes. Now this one I'm going to clear up some things about so that you can understand a little bit more about me and my ex-wife, and I have another brother which I explained about. My mother was in a marriage before my father, and she had a relationship with another man, and that's where my second oldest brother comes from. And right now, if my family hears that, they would just like pass out, but it's just normal. And that's another thing that I want to stress in this video, is that things that we go through, just normal things that we go through in our life, is like traumas to someone in the Jehovah Witness organization, and it pretty much affects them too much physically, mentally, and it causes them problems that if they were just in the world, as they would say, they would just probably seek help or ask friends and things like that. But the Jehovah Witness organization doesn't have that ability. I mean, the people inside don't have the ability to go to work and just ask for advice and say, what do you think about this? So you know, things like that, normal things. So it hurts a lot of lives inside the organization, where people would be able to get over a lot of problems just by talking to someone else. But as far as being a Jehovah Witness, you can't. So this one is just going to clear up, and I don't want this one to be that long because it's going to clear up, and then I'm going to do another YouTube. So, and I'm sorry I have to do it this way, but I mean, I have tried almost 30 years talking to my family, and it is important to talk to your family, even try to talk to your family. But this is the only way that I feel, and I prayed about it, that this can be done. So I'm going to go, and it helps a lot of people, okay? And so I'm going to clear up some of the things in my YouTube. The one that was titled "The Blood Issue, My Truth About the Truth," unquote, you know. I want to state my mother. Another thing I'm going to keep stressing was my mother and I didn't have a Jehovah Witness relationship. She was in the relationship. She was in the truth, and you know I'm saying that with quotes, because of her children. She got married to a Jehovah Witness, and she had to continue because her children became adapted to the Jehovah Witness. They had a Jehovah Witness mind. And like I said, me and my mother had a relationship that was not a Jehovah Witness. She passed away, and I can pretty much sure they don't believe that lives go on, but I feel that she's in heaven, as far as I know, and she has an influence on me, and I believe she has an influence on this YouTube also. That's something that only people outside the truth can understand, and that's another sadness about those in in the organization is that when someone dies, even just like my mother died, it's like, okay, you're gone. I mean, we move on. You know, you're gone. You're not going to have any feelings. You're not going to see anything. You're just dead until the new system, which is definitely not true, because I believe that she definitely influences my life. I mean, through God, God has made it to where my mother can be a part of my life indirectly. I mean, some things I see, I can feel her sometimes. I'm just happy that she's somewhere, you know. So anyway, I'm going to clear up some points. Like, I want to state very strongly that I have no feelings. This YouTube has no feelings again with any issues. I'm not trying to say any issues, because we're gonna. Some people might, what I'm gonna say, might have some feelings about abortion, things like the sex or something like that, dating before sex, sex before marriage. But I don't have any issues. I'm just telling you my personal things that happened to me. So if one of my family members sees this, they can see what's wrong with the organization. So I'm not touching on any issues or anything. So if you start thinking, oh, I feel this way or I feel this way, just drop it, because it's just a personal experience. Okay, when I want to talk about now, when I was dating my wife, I had no experience as far as sex at all. The only experience I had is that I did masturbate with men, okay? And that's pretty much all the experience I had with sex, okay? But I even denied it myself, because I was like, when I was with my wife, I always forgot about it. I always put it to the side. I blocked it out, you know? And so anyway, we're dating. So that's not even a part of our relationship, okay? And there was one point in time, and this is important, that I was in her apartment. We were alone in the apartment. She lived with other people, but we were alone in her bedroom, and we were getting ready to have sex. And I was on top of her, and I was getting ready to enter, and a gut feeling said, like, no, you know what I mean? So I jumped up and I said, I could feel that we couldn't do it. I mean, I'm almost sure it was like God. It was like that same feeling. And I jumped up and I said, we can't do it. And she goes, what, you know, she was like really like into the situation. And I knew that I had to wait. For some reason, I knew I had to wait to be married. And that's what I told her. I said, we have to wait until we get married, because that gut feeling, I can't go against that. So anyway, now I'm going to go into when we were actually married. We're married. We have when we have our honeymoon, it's a suite. And just from where I was working, I got a real nice suite. It was beautiful. It had a bedroom, it had a living room, it had, you know, a bathroom, beautiful bathroom. So it was kind of a big honeymoon suite. And my brother, this is another brother that's entering. He was a brother from my mother's relationship when she was married to this other guy. So she had a child from another man. So that's my, which is totally natural. I mean, but the Jehovah's Witness can't handle that, so we never talk about it. They hide it. So he is the one that was like chauffeuring us, and he came into the room. You know, he wanted to see the room. So me, my ex-wife was in her wedding gown. I was in my tuxedo, and he came in. And in the middle of the floor, we found, which was from her friend, there was a box. It was beautiful, sweet, and I knew, or my ex-wife told me it was from. She knew that it was from her friend. And then we opened the box. As soon as I opened up the box, it was a lamp. I knew that it was demonized, and you know, if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you know what demonized is. So I'm not going to get into that. I guess that's another YouTube. But it was a lamp and it was demonized. Okay. Um, and you could tell it had papers instead of a new lamp, you know, with like tissue paper and things like that. This person wanted you to know that this lamp was not any other lamp, and my ex-wife pretty much knew where it came from. So I just was opening it up, and I said, "This is like so weird, you know." And we took out the paper; it was like regular paper, you know, newspaper. So we opened it up and let that go. My brother was lavishing the room. Oh, this is so beautiful. But he's in this next YouTube, so I want to mention him. So he also puts me to the side. He gives me like 200 condoms. I go, well, what? He goes, you have to have this. If you don't have these condoms, you're going to have a baby, you know. So that's something new, and that opened up a lot of doors for me. So he gave me like a box of 200, and I told him thanks. Anyway, at that point, we had to get my brother to leave, and my brother left, okay? So, so we did have a marriage relationship. That's another thing I want to stress. Um, Before we actually did something, I have to explain this, I'm sorry, because it's important, I know. I don't know the importance yet, but I went over, I prayed about it, and this is important. So we, you know, we did our marriage things that we had to do, relationship things that we had to do, romantic, I guess you can say. But before we did it, because I didn't know anything at all about sex or anything, and I noticed my ex-wife stated to me about why, back then I didn't know what she was talking about, but she wanted to state to me why she wasn't a virgin, which I didn't care because I didn't know what a virgin was and I didn't know what a non-virgin was, so it didn't make me any difference, but she didn't know that. So she explained to me that when she was young, a guy fell on her and she became a non-virgin, which I didn't understand. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't understand. So anyway, we continued to do the marriage things that, you know, a new couple does. And my brother gave me the condoms, so I was using the condoms. And then after a while, because we continued and continued to do those things, I stopped using the condoms because it was too much work. So the next morning, when me and my ex-wife were talking, I was telling her, you are going to have a baby. I mean, it's impossible that you're not, you know. But I didn't notice another thing, and in retrospect, it's so funny how you can see how naive and gullible you are, because she never said anything. And that's the point I want to say, is that she wasn't happy. I was happy about that fact that we could have children. Of course, it was an immature thing because I didn't even know how we were going to take care of a child. Maybe she knew. I'm not saying it's bad or good, but I think that she should have told me her thoughts about that. And again, I kept saying it, and I was wondering why I kept saying it. But now I can see that I was looking for a reaction that she never gave me. She was just blunt, serious. Now, after our honeymoon, we're in our apartment. And I was stupid, but I did have a sense, some kind of intelligence somewhere. It was just hiding. Because we woke up one morning, and I could feel the child inside of her. I mean, it was like such a beautiful feeling. It's almost if the child was communicating happiness to me. And I said, Jenny, you're pregnant. I mean, you're pregnant, I could tell. Again, she had no response whatsoever. And I'm going this one real fast because I want to finish this YouTube. No response whatsoever, which I didn't see back then. And then another day passed and we were in the same situation. No, she came back home from work. I was in the bed and she came over and she says, you're right, I am pregnant. Just like that. And back then I didn't understand how her reaction was. It was not a happiness, you know. And I hate to say this part, but we have to finish this, and then I'm going to go on really, 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 really quick. I don't know if it was the same day, but it was the same situation. My wife came in and goes, there's something in the bathroom that I don't know what it is. She bluntly said she did not know what it was. And I went into the bathroom, and it was like kind of scary. And in the toilet, it was like this small, and it was, now I know that it was a fetus, okay? But I didn't know back then. I was kind of scared back then. But I didn't let my mind go wander because she said she didn't know what it was. So all these feelings and everything, I flushed it, and I felt really bad. And I just like cut that feeling off, and we lived our life, and we never talked about it at all. But I was going by, she didn't know. She didn't know what this was. But everybody has miscarriages. But the only thing I'm saying with her was that she never had any feeling about telling me about whether she wanted to have a child, and she never reacted like she was happy or she was sad. So I'm going to go to the next subject. But I don't know why, but I had to stress that point. Oh, I do want to say this. When I knew that I was going to have a child, I called him Joshua. I could just feel it. I even named him. That's how happy I was. I didn't know how we would take care of a child. I mean, literally. Maybe she did. But I was just happy. And I think that's one reason why I'm saying it, because it was the most happiest feeling I had since I was married to her. And it would have changed everything, I'm almost sure. So anyway, going on, I don't want to make this one long. And there's no feelings about any issues or anything. I mentioned my brother. And now I'm going to go on to talking about, okay, we did all of that. So now I'm going to go on to, okay, now, as I stated in the last video, when my wife got sick, this is the setup for the next video. She, in 1 week, this is clearing up the last video, she was on her feet. 1 week, she was doing well. She was walking around, and we went to talk to the doctor together, and he was like, I can't believe it. I mean, it's like a miracle or whatever. He goes, you're walking, you're talking, there's no problems whatsoever. I mean, I can't believe it. So she had her health back within 1 week. So that was definitely God's doing. I know that. Okay, so she did go back. So the point I wanted to set up was that she told me that she wanted to go back to her country. And in my heart, I knew that I had to make sure this woman was all right, okay? She was my responsibility, and I had to do whatever I could to make sure that she was all right. So she said she wanted to go back to her country. So I remember exactly where I was in a restaurant. I remember exactly where it was. And I was thinking about what I could do. And it was a breakfast place, and they used to have the telephones. Now everybody has their own telephone. But I went in a telephone booth, and I called my friend, a very good friend I used to work with. And he was living in California. And we were like brothers, even though, I mean, he was from a Spanish country. And I called him, and I said, I need money. I need $800, because I had Jenny, I asked her how much it would cost for her to go back. And she gave me the price. And I called him, and I told him, and I said, I need $800. Like I said, I was poor. I didn't have any money. And he had no problem. He sent me the money, Federal Express, I'm almost sure. It's not an advertisement, but it's just, everybody knows about FedEx. So he sent me the money right away. And as soon as I got the money, I cashed it, and I gave the cash to Jenny. And I said, go to your country, like you said you wanted to, and make sure everything is all right. And another reason why I know that I could tell that that she didn't really, it was just a friend, and she didn't see me as somebody romantically involved with, because even when we got on a plane, she was on a plane, and I couldn't imagine if I was in love with her, because I was like really, really husbandly with her. And she was on the plane, and I remember how much I cared, and I made sure I got on the plane. I told the steward, I have to get on the plane, make sure to say goodbye. And she felt kind of funny. I guess it was just natural that she felt kind of funny. And I could feel that she felt kind of funny about me being there. And she was all right, and she went off to her country. So that's one thing I want to set up as far as that. I want to explain something also about my mother, which is going to set up things also. My mother and I, as I stated before, we didn't have a Jehovah Witness relationship. We had a non-Jehovah Witness relationship. It was just between me and her. And I remember her one time saying, now my brother, the brother from a relationship that she had, it was my half brother, he was disfellowshipped also the same time that I was, but I had no idea about it. Because in the congregation, he was fooling around with someone else in the congregation. So he was still a Jehovah's Witness at heart, but he got most likely disfellowship because he was, cheating on his wife with somebody in the congregation, and he was 100% Jehovah's Witness. But the reason why I say that is because after my ex-wife left for her country, I had to stay with my parents. And my mother, she was kind of setting me up, because I didn't think that she knew everything that was going on, but evidently she knew. And I was in the icebox, I was opening the icebox and getting something, and my mother said in that another passed down tone, I don't know how she does it, and she goes, your brother, I'm going to say your brother took me to a concert, a Johnny Mathis concert. Now, she was in love with Johnny Mathis. That's the story. Okay, I'm going to say she was in love with Johnny Mathis. Okay, I'll explain that later. She would do anything for Johnny Mathis. Her and her sister was, but she was more involved with Johnny Mathis. I know he's a celebrity, but he was very important to her. Like I said, she was not a Jehovah's Witness. So anyway, I was opening the icebox, and she goes, your brother took me to, it's a passed down tone, like she's passing information down to me, with this white girl to this concert, okay? And I was like, this is the first time I actually, oh, what, I went to a Johnny Mathis concert. Your brother bought a ticket for me and this girl, and I went to the Johnny Mathis concert. It's like that. And she said it a third time. She goes, I went to a Johnny Mathis concert with your brother. She said the name, and he was with another woman, like that. And that was the end of the conversation. Now, the reason I want to state this is that I don't want this one to be long, but it seems like it's going on 11 minutes now. But I'm cutting it off pretty soon. I'm not going to have a end of YouTube statement that I make. Now, I know my mother was not in love with the Jehovah's Witness guy, my ex-stepfather, because I remember these are going to be some things I'm going to show you. I have to show my family that she was not a Jehovah's Witness. I remember when I was very young, before she was marrying this stepfather, but she made it look like she was talking to somebody. She's very smart. And I was there, and she knew I was there. And she said as she was walking away, I would never have a child with him. And she was referring to my ex-stepfather. I would tie my tooth before I had a child with him. I will never have a child with him. And she told me in that tone. And I looked, and I could look now, I don't see anybody. Maybe she told somebody else that, but she made sure that I heard that. However, she wanted me to call him Dad. And it was important because all of my other brothers and sisters flocked to him and called him Dad. They were so happy to have a dad. And I remember when we were going over my brother's house, my older brother's house, I mentioned him in my first testimony. He was the one that got disfellowship and stayed out. But my other brother wants to go back in, the one that I'm telling you from a relationship my mother had. Okay, he's 100% Jehovah's Witness. Okay, so she wants me to call him Dad, and I was the only one that would not call him Dad. There's no way in the world. So we're going over my brother's house, and I'm the last one. We're going through the door. Everybody goes first, and I'm the last one in the door. And when you go through my brother's house, his ex-wife has these beads. Okay, when you go through the door, there's beads on the right-hand side. Beads, like a vestibule, surrounded by beads. And when I was the last one to come in because I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't even want to see him. And I walked through the door, and my mother grabbed me through the beads and pinned me up with her fist, with the collar. And she goes, "If you don't call him Dad, I'm going to punch you out." And I was astounded, but she knew how to handle me. The only thing I really thought, nothing really affected me too much when I was a child, because I was always studying, okay? I love to study. And the only thing I said to myself was that she knew that it didn't hurt me or anything. She just showed me how much she wanted me to call him Dad. Because later on, she would just say things. After that, when I got older, she would just say things. She knew I would do it in a very calm voice. But I was younger then. So then I had to practice in my mind about how I call him Dad. But she let me know that I had to call him Dad. So that was one thing. And the last thing I want to mention is she medicated herself with Johnny Mathis because she wasn't in love with him. So she knew she had to get married because of her children, which I'm positive. But I can see her influence in my life right now. And I know that the only way that she could do it was she had to have some kind of a love. And she used Johnny Mathis, and I know that for 100% sure because I prayed about it after her death. And that's really complicated. But I just know that. And that's who she put her love in, was Johnny Mathis. And I could see that because she violated her, and she could have gotten in trouble, but she went to the Johnny Mathis concert with my brother. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. Then I want to go into the next YouTube.